So the other day, I was coaching a client around a very common situation. He wanted to know how to eliminate late night pleasure binges, okay? And so what happened in his case was that he had been working hard all day. He was an entrepreneur, and so, he's a very ambitious guy. And the thing that happened to him was that after he finished his work for the day, he felt like he needed a reward, a very common sort of scenario, right? And so what did he do? He started scrolling, started eating some junk food. I think he was messaging some friends online, and one thing led to another, and he ended up staying up very late. Okay, I think to 2 a.m. or something like that. And he didn't relapse on porn that night, but he did the next morning because he felt like crap because he had to get up early. He had a work meeting and he was just so overwhelmed and frustrated with how he felt. He just decided to, go and grab some more pleasure, and he relapsed. Okay. And so he was talking to me oh, how can I fix this situation? And this is a really great question because I think this is one of the things that really messes guys up a lot when it comes to the process of quitting porn, but really just discipline in general. It's that late night grasping at pleasure. Okay. It's because once that happens, once you disrupt your sleep, it creates this cascading effect of, frustration, low energy, and it just kind of keeps you from ever getting into a super good groove with things. And here's how I recommend that you solve this issue. All right. The first thing we got to understand is the pattern that generally brings about this kind of relapse and, late night pleasure binging. Okay. It's a situation typically where a guy is engaging in intentional work, but unintentional play. So for example, this guy, like I was saying, he's an entrepreneur, so he's very ambitious. And so when he looks at his week, his calendar, okay, Monday through Saturday, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, okay, he looks at all those days and he says, I think I can be productive on all of them. And in fact, I want to be productive on all of them. So I'm going to fill my whole calendar up with productivity, right? That's what he wants. Problem is, this doesn't really work. Why? Well, because no one can be productive all of the time. But the thing is, they put all of their intentionality into being productive. And so what ends up happening is, oh, well, they get a little slip in here and they scroll. And then that night, maybe they have a bunch of use, maybe they stay up really late, doing some, scrolling, porn, whatever. Okay. And then that morning, oh, that screws up the next morning too. And that makes them feel like crap. And it leads to a bunch more relapse until eventually they lose whole days. Okay. That's what ends up happening is that if you don't plan your downtime, well, then it's going to happen in a haphazard manner. It's going to happen in a way that doesn't feel good. Okay. Because you've basically put your emotional mind in a state where it's never going to get what it wants because it's your logical mind that is primarily interested in long-term gains. It's that logical mind that makes you book that whole week out and live in this place of, I can always do more, right? Your emotional self, it wants pleasure in the moment. That's what it wants, right? It wants to feel good. We're all designed this way. We all have this pleasure hungry part of us. And when that part feels like it's not allowed to have pleasure and no intentionality is given to it, well, then in that moment where it finally has a chance, you're just too tired to work anymore, you just don't have it in you, well, that part feels like it needs to get it all in. And that's what creates these moments where it just keeps going. You just keep going with it. You just want more. All right. It's because that part finally feels like, oh, well, the jerk boss over there, he's kind of asleep now because he's tired. So now's my chance. I gotta get it all in. So how do we fix this? Well, we have to shift to an attitude of intentional work and intentional play. All right. So yes, we need to plan out our work. It's important, right? Maybe mornings are your big, heavy work times. Maybe sometimes even work afternoons too. Okay. But you also need to have some pleasure. Maybe Wednesday afternoons are your big pleasure time. Maybe it's, all of Saturday. Maybe part of Sunday's productive, but part of it's fun, part of it's whatever. Okay. If you have actual time on the books where you're having fun, where pleasure is allowed and it's on purpose, well, then you don't need to get it all in anymore. All right. That's why guys engage in late night pleasure binges, is because they feel like there isn't a place for pleasure in their life. And then they end up just defaulting to the lowest like most stimulating crap that ultimately doesn't even make them feel good after the fact, because when they're doing it, they're so deeply engaged in this like pleasure now mentality, right? It's like they've got this little, it's like right now is all that exists. And I just need to put all of my fun right into this moment because I'm allowed to do it, or I'm letting myself do it. Okay. But what we want to do is we want to start shifting into pleasure over time, right? We're taking that little instant of pleasure and we're like spreading it out. And so the big thing here is that you have to take pleasure actually more seriously. You say, instead of like, how can I have the most fun right now? How can I have the most pleasure right now? How can I have the most pleasurable week, right? Guys mix it up where they think that, oh, the answer is I got to be more disciplined. I got to be more focused on sacrifice and that sort of thing. But that doesn't work. That doesn't inspire this emotional part of you, okay? And it's this emotional part that this, porn and binging behavior exists in. All right. The only way we can get our emotional self on board is if there's something in it for them. And so we have to aim not for just more suffering and more discipline. We have to aim for better pleasure, right? The reason why you would give up a late night pleasure binge is because that would screw up your pleasurable week. That's the key, is you want to have the maximally pleasurable week and generally maximally pleasurable lifestyle. All right, when we aim for a bigger box of pleasure, we can sacrifice these little instances, and it doesn't even feel like a sacrifice. It just feels like, oh no, I don't want to screw up this thing that is actually more enjoyable to me. Now, while doing this is relatively simple in theory, in practice, it can be a little bit more difficult because, some guys, they don't even know how to conceptualize a life that seems pleasurable. And even if they can, well, maybe they struggle with justifying it. Maybe they feel like, oh, I'm not allowed to work, or I'm too far behind. They've got all these internal blocks. Maybe they've got practical blocks. Maybe there's just so much on their plate. Like if you're one of the kind of the entrepreneurial fathers that I work with, well, you've got a lot of stuff pulling on you. You've got a business, maybe a second business. You've got kids. You've got your wife. You've got your own fitness goals. You got like this, that, and the other. And it's like, where the heck is pleasure supposed to fit in? How do I even practically, logistically pull this off? And so if you're struggling with any of these questions and you keep dealing with these late night pleasure binges that are causing you to fall back to porn, or just an escapist lifestyle that doesn't really represent the man that you want to be, well then hit us up, because this is exactly what we help guys fix, and we are incredibly good at it. So all you got to do is click the link in the description to book a free discovery call with us, and we will tell you about how our Frontline Man coaching program can help you out. So I look forward to hearing from you if you find yourself in this kind of situation. But otherwise, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know any questions that you have. If you think this is useful to anyone, send it to them. All right, share it. A lot of this stuff is best shared through word of mouth because the algorithm doesn't seem to be on my side lately, but we're doing everything we can to try and fix that. But anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you like this. See you on the next one. Ooh, yeah.